And welcome back to the Part-Time Otaku Podcast. My name is Dave.
My name's Grant.
And we're here. We're back, everybody.
We're back. We are back.
Talk about Season 4, Episode 14 of Attack on Titan. Earthquakes notwithstanding, they published a double episode of Episode 14 and 15 of Season 4 this week. So we're going to have back-to-back episodes for you guys, just like everybody else had when they watched this. But this one is just talking about episode 14 called Savagery. Thumbnail for this episode is straight from Mappa. It's Zeke and Levi. Mappa put out a couple of cool art pieces because, they dropped 2 episodes at the same time. I think, the lead animator put one out, the studio put one out, and the director of this episode put one out. The Zeke and Levi thumbnail that you're seeing is straight from Mappa. So, without further ado, before I jump into the synopsis, if it's your first time here, welcome. Grant and I are anime-only watchers. We've never read the manga, so everything you hear us talk about is, speculation and analysis. All we really do is, briefly summarize the episode for you, talk about our favorite parts, and then maybe theory craft a little bit. I'll start us off here. Season 4, Episode 14. Eren, Mikasa, and Armin sit down to talk. Eren claims his actions have all been of his own free will. Eren claims Armin is compromised by Berthold's memories and that Mikasa's heritage has been controlling her. Eren says he has always hated Mikasa because of this. Eren and Armin have a brief fist fight before Eren and the Jaegerists head for Shiganshina.
Levi is informed about Zachary's death and plans to steal the Beast Titan from Zeke. However, Zeke triggers the wine trap and Levi's team is turned into Titans who immediately attack him. Levi fights his way out, captures Zeke, and drags him out of the forest.
Big time episode,
Wow.
Grant.
Big time episode. It was so funny when I was watching it. I was watching. Had my eyes on my watch, and I was waiting for the 19-minute mark.
Yeah.
I was so curious to see where it cut off on everyone.
Oh right, yeah, because this episode was airing everywhere, and in Japan specifically when the earthquake hit. So where did it cut off? Was it at an incredibly crucial moment?
It was kind of in the lull moment as it's kind of petering out. So I believe it's the point. I had it written down. It's I think with the idea he could escape from me, I believe was the 19-minute mark. Levi.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, when he's through the forest and everything?
Yeah, it's right at the end because the tail end because it's
God.
Yeah.
That's killer.
Yeah.
Man, this episode answered a lot of questions. It had, we've talked about Attack on Titan's pacing this season and how it's been pretty great, right? When you really can't take much more, lore bombs and flashbacks and character development. They know right when to give you the action.
Mm-hmm.
And this episode is no exception. Let's start at the beginning. And God, man, what a cliffhanger to leave us on for an extra week, right?
Yeah.
It was the Eren conversation that was killing me. I wanted to know, because we were pretty confident about the wine trap that Zeke was going to spring.
Mm-hmm.
And, the obvious question was, how bad is it going to be? But I had no idea what Eren was going to say when he sat down with Armin and Mikasa. And it made me feel some things.
Yeah, it's so strange. I think I had made a joke a couple weeks ago about this isn't my Eren. And this scene kind of just cemented that,
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to get into the weeds of theories and all that. I still believe that Aaron's got something up his sleeve. We'll get into it. He says some pretty out there shit both to Armin and Mikasa, right?
He gets a lot off the table in these first 7-8 minutes of the episode. The pace is pretty quick. The first thing he establishes is I'm free. You know what I mean? He says very quick, I'm free. Mikasa wants to give him an out, right? I think everybody wants to give him an out for the way he's behaving. It's easier to believe that he's being manipulated. It would be preferable to believe that.
He's their lifelong friend. You know? It's normal for them to think that,
Yeah, but he's very clear in saying I'm not.
Yeah.
And, Mikasa even at one point gets excited, and you feel the tone shift because Eren says, I said keep your hands on the table.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like he turns this into much more of a you're going to listen to what I have to say
yeah.
as opposed to, we're not negotiating.
Yeah, it
Feels like
was.
he had a point to make here.
There's a moment too, because for for like the beginning part of that conversation, he has his eyes down, like he's not looking at them,
Yeah.
and I forget exactly. I think it's when Mikasa like really starts trying to talk to him. You can see his eyes slowly drift up and look on her, and I had to. I didn't catch it the first time, but the second time I watched the episode, I had to freeze frame it. The look he gives her, and then because then he immediately falls into the whole like you're essentially you're a slave
Yeah.
to your being, and then we got that huge lore dump with the
Daggers, yeah.
Ackermans. The whole
Yeah.
you guys have been slaves to the Eldian king and all that.
Yeah.
And did you find that a little clumsy?
I don't know. It in the moment it worked for me.
Yeah,
It's worked a
yeah,
little
in the
bit
moment.
less upon review because I don't want to get ahead, but it's just so hard. It really did suck. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like especially seeing Mikasa being kind of ripped up like that. I
yeah.
want to before he goes at Mikasa though, he goes at Armin. And what did you think about that angle? I thought that was that was more thought provoking to me, which was
Yes, all the stuff with the memories.
yeah, he's saying,
Yeah,
you're still visiting Annie, aren't you? Like, you're the one who's being manipulated by the enemy because, he kind of postulates, he says, you ate Berthold, you inherited his memories, and memories are what shape a person, and now you're visiting Annie all the time. That was a really interesting thought. I hadn't really thought about it that way. The show hasn't really illustrated it in that way. Like they've sort of shown that you can get flashes of memories and this and that.
well,
What
they
did you think about
tease
that?
because what I was thinking of was earlier in the season where it's a flashback on them training. I think it's the three of them on at the shooting range,
Yeah,
and Aaron asks, like flat out asks Armin of, do you have any key memories of Bertold's? And
I
Armin kind
forgot
of
about that.
and Armin just kind of shrugs it off and like no,
No, not
like
really. Nothing helpful.
and you and I had maybe speculated that was Armin was kind of sensing a sway of opinion of Aaron,
Yeah.
and he was just trying to maybe keep some
Maybe
stuff locked in,
deflecting.
deflecting, but also too like maybe Aaron was right on the money, and Armin has it. Obviously Armin has like seeing these memories, and he clearly is being influenced because he was visiting Annie every day, and all that too. It's
Yeah.
it was. I found it. For a moment, I thought maybe Aaron is trying to protect them some way, like he's trying to distance himself from them, and
Yeah.
he's kind of manipulating what he knows about their like what they've been doing, what their situations are, to like create that wall.
Yeah.
But they've set up. Like they've set up all this stuff with Armin, like the moments with Annie, like him visiting Annie, and then there's the moments of like, well, the moment of Aaron asking about Bertold's memories and all that, and then kind of jumping forward a bit with Mikasa, they brought up the Hizuru connection, and like they kind of put a lot of focus on their histories
Yeah.
leading up to this, and then he hits them with like these two like absolute haymakers,
Big bombs.
and it's like, oh, was this the moment that you guys been like kind of. That's the thing. I'm not sure if this was the moment they're trying to reveal to us, or if this was like a fake out. Do you know what I mean?
I agree, and I think we're maybe meant to feel this way because it is a bit of a, and I'm not like saying it's a bad thing, but it is a bit of a trope sometimes that you see in drama where that people push themselves away from people that they care about in order to spare them further heartache down the road, and they do it really brutally. And for a minute there, I thought that's what Aaron was doing. But I'm so torn because it feels like what he's saying, his way of attacking them, is
Yeah.
so deliberate, and like there might be a lot of truth in it.
Mm-hmm.
It feels very, how compromised is Armin, if at all? He could just be saying that to get into his head. But what he says about Mikasa, to me, was really compelling.
Yeah.
So maybe we should talk about that real quick. And that's you and I have been talking all season long about how Mikasa, if anybody, is a little bit one-dimensional, and how her only real character motivation is protecting Eren, and how she could do with a bit of a revelation, and like how weirdly fucked up and fitting is it that maybe the reason she's
Yeah.
a little bit one-dimensional is because that that's all she's able to be
Yeah, she's
because
engineered that way. Socially
yeah,
engineered that way, yeah.
exactly. And that she's not really been allowed the ability to think of anything else or have anything else drive her. What a weirdly fucked up idea and like super interesting.
And then you know what? And this is where I think there's some truth to that. Like obviously there's some truth to it. It wasn't just her getting in his head. Like Armin goes to hit him,
Oh yeah,
and
and she just snaps too.
snaps too, and like has Armin pinned to the table. And
Yeah.
I was hoping to see Aaron's face. Like I was like, oh my god, is he gonna have like a smug look on his face? But like he was just as like he's been this whole season is just more or less like
Dead eyes, yeah.
facially monotone. But yeah, it's just like the way he struck into her like that, and you could tell like it hurt her. Like the animation of her eyes in that scene,
Yeah.
is like top tier. This whole episode is beautiful front to back. You can tell like like I think they know it's getting towards the end there, and like probably a lot of focus was made towards the back end.
Yeah.
Because beginning to end, this episode is absolutely stunning, and that was just one of the key moments. It's just kind of the way they focused on both her and Armin's eyes. Just how choked they are.
It was also interesting, if Aaron really believes that he is free and he has all this information, because one thing we skimmed over is he says he's learned a lot from Zeke, right? That Zeke has a lot more information on the Titans than even Marley does, and we have to assume that this information on the Ackermans, et cetera, is coming from Zeke and whatever Aaron has learned in this 4-year period. But he does say, to really kind of as a bit of a coffin nail, it feels like, because there's one thing I hate more than anybody, or there's one thing I hate more than anything, and that's somebody who just obeys orders. Like that part ain't necessary. It's like, hey man, he's dead already.
Yeah,
she's dead already. But he really says like that's the one thing I've always hated, and ever since I was a kid, I didn't know why it made me angry to even look at you. And then he says, I've always hated you.
And that, see, I don't know if I bought that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we're meant to feel conflicted because I don't know what the fuck to believe, because it feels like watching him manipulate Mikasa in that way and thinking but even like the flashback they showed was very like
him
very
having
poignant.
a face. Yeah, he had like a face on.
Yeah, and then
but they also just murdered. Well, not murdered. They had just defended their lives against they were being
but there is like a whole animation thing where when Mikasa's a kid and she comes to, there's like they specifically make it look like she gets kind of zapped and kind of comes to her senses, and that makes Aaron's story about you mistook me for the person you were supposed to protect, and ever since then you've been compelled, and it just sort of, that part makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, but him hating her this whole time, it makes a bit less sense to me. It makes me feel like he's trying to push her away.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking he's trying to do. I think.
So you think he's telling the truth paired with a lie to get her, to push her away?
Well, look what Nicolo did.
Yeah.
When he was trying to save him from the wine, right? And he went over the top. Yeah. He hit them with some truths, but he really like overplayed his hand to really sell it.
Right.
That's something we've seen this season. So like, they could be going back to the well with that one, like, but I, in my heart of hearts, I don't see Aaron as the villain yet.
No, yeah. I mean, it's funny. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's kind of hard because that's the one really big bummer, and I don't want to touch next or the following episode at all yet.
Mm-hmm.
But the one bad thing, and you and I had even said this last week, I wish we had time to sit with this episode.
Yeah, 1 week of digestion, right?
I feel so many people, from what I've read online and just like general consensus, is like the focus has been on the episode 15. And, obviously there's big moments from this episode that people, are paying it. This being one of them. And then, like obviously there's like another, actually there's a couple major scenes throughout the episode. But I just feel like all the focus has been on the next episode. And I think this one, it's a bit of a shame. I think it really needed the analysis, like the week to breathe and think about it and mull it over. Yeah. you know, like
Because
I
some of the
don't
revelations in the next episode, which obviously
kind of give some credence. Yeah,
we're gonna cover
yeah,
next episode, which will come out shortly after this one. But yeah, they change your understanding of this a little bit.
yeah.
But we're not going to spoil it just in case.
No, no,
so
no.
so tune in to the next one.
It's just I feel like there's more credence to Aaron
Yeah.
still being the good guy, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And
I don't disagree. Even just based in this episode, is like, do you believe that this he could have flipped the switch so quickly? And it's hard to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. There is one thing I want to mention though. And like I'm not. We haven't even rewatched the whole show yet. You know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of episodes in this whole series I've only seen once, but there is one thing that stuck out to me which was Aaron's explanation of the Ackermans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how they were designed to protect the king. The only thing that I remember about the Ackermans being special, other than Mikasa and Levi, was this revelation that we got from Kenny in a flashback, where he was talking to, I believe it was his dad. It was another Ackerman, but
Okay.
it's back in season 3, part 1, when Kenny learns a little bit about his own heritage, and there's this flashback that tells Kenny and the audience that the Ackermans are part of this royal bloodline, and they were one of the only ones that the king couldn't control. So we assume the founding Titan couldn't control them, and then so what was that, and how does that play into this, if at all? Because we were sort of led to believe that they were special. Is this what they meant? Because if they weren't, if they weren't controllable, then how were they, quote, designed to do this? It's just, and like maybe the stuff we learn next week plays into that, but it seems sort of at odds with one another. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. Well, it makes sense now thinking back, like Kenny's situation with Fritz.
Yeah.
Probably whether he knew it or not. Maybe that's why he was, because he was a thug and a murderer, but like he was devoted to him.
Yeah.
But they had personal history together too, like, because that's what they kind of show us back then. Like it shows that Kenny worked for him, as it was like like a symbiotic relationship, I guess. Like it made sense to help each other. But now we know that might not have been the case. Like he was just naturally drawn to defend the king and do all
Interesting.
So,
but at the same time, Kenny was like plotting to steal that power. Remember, like, and then he was mad that he couldn't. Like towards the end of season, his arc,
true too.
Is he realizes like, wait a minute, if I take the injection, I'm just gonna turn into an idiot. Like it seems like, but maybe he only developed that plot after his boy died. You know what I mean? Like maybe he only cared about trying to steal that power after the guy he was protecting.
There's a lot of quagmire right now with this, because that's the thing too. This is coming up in almost the final hour of the season. This isn't like a big. This isn't like episode 4 or 5 where we're getting some big news and we have all this time to think about it. Now like everything is just kind of coming at us breakneck speed. So this is just the point of, I really, really wish we had more time, but it is what it is, and I think we'll see more. It's funny, I had watched this episode, and before I jumped into the next one, I had thought, oh, this is done. There is not going to be a part 2. I think they're going to be. I bet you they'll wrap this up in the next 2 episodes, and then I get into the it's so fun, and I would have thought that for a week.
Yeah.
I would have been convinced, and then the second I about halfway through like episode 15, I was like, oh, there's going to be a second part. Like I'm confident now.
Yeah.
But yeah, this whole part of the episode, there's a lot of great stuff, but just seeing the dynamic between Aaron, because this is the most one-on-one time we've had with him since him and Reiner.
Yep, it's been a minute. You know what? Just to cap this section off before we move on, there's one other thing that I think reinforces what we're both saying, which is that otherwise slow. It was an oddly weak episode of this whole season, where I think we both agreed the animation basically looked different every scene. But it was that episode where they're building the railroad.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
That episode more or less ends with, that's a flashback. It's a couple of years ago. But Aaron is in the back of the train, and they're all talking about who should inherit. his Titan, right?
Yeah.
And it's sort of this bit where he makes them all blush, being like, I don't want any of you to inherit my Titan because I care about you all way too much.
Mm.
And that was only 2 years ago. You know what I mean? And it just feels like, is he really... And now he's just severing all ties with these people. And, that's not to say he hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But I had thought about that episode and like, what a weirdly stark contrast. Obviously, he's been through a lot in the interim, but it feels like a choice that they included that conversation, right? And his decision to be like, no, I don't want it to go to any of you because I want you to live long lives because I care about you so much. And now here we are.
It's strange too. And then, I guess like kind of like the like you said, the cap off to this section is he just proceeds to lay an absolute ass kicking on Armin.
Yeah.
And
beats the shit out of him.
He beats the shit out of him, and he kind of makes like he makes the comment of, "Oh yeah, I guess we've never fought before." And then
really rubs his nose in it,
Rubs his nose, and then like in just like a moment of enlightenment, and he goes, "Do you know why we haven't?" And because because it's one sided, or I can't forget the exact line, but
it wouldn't be a fair fight.
It wouldn't be a fair fight, and I'm wondering, this is going to be like really, really like going with a microscope. I wonder if that was like a message to him.
Yeah, I don't
know. Like in a weird way. Like, I don't know how, but like just kind of, I don't know. It's Armin is not a physical fighter, but like he's got the mind, right?
Big time, big brain Armin.
Big brain Armin. So like, I don't know. And then he went back for more, and you started pounding the shit out of him. I was like, fuck, like maybe he is just enjoying this.
Hit him with that 3-piece and the soda.
Yeah. Oh my god. And then everyone, then of course like the Jaegers come blasting in. He's just like, no, like we're good. And Gabby just like sitting there like shocked him, like
just hoping nobody has noticed that she's still there.
Oh, I wish she would have slipped out.
Well,
I now think I think I have more belief that she's gonna make a final blow on Eren.
Yeah. When I heard you say that, I was like, oh fuck, that would be like too perfectly tragic if she's the one to eat him or kill him or do something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then Eren packs up and they go to Shiganshina, and he does say, "Bring Gabby too.
Yeah.
Bring the kid that killed Sasha." Before we see what happens in Shiganshina, this is the Levi part of the episode. Levi and Zeke's arc for this one. So we kind of pick up where we left off. We're in the forest of giant trees. Zeke is still captive. Levi is informed previously that Zachary's dead. The Jaegerists are on the move, etc. So Levi makes the call and says, we got to get somebody to eat Zeke. We got to take the power back, more or less, which makes sense, right? Like if from a negotiating position, Zeke is their trump card, but right now they're not in control of that card, right? So Levi's scrambling to fix it, but he's just a little bit too late. You know what I mean? He gets the information a little bit too slowly. He has this conversation with Zeke about, you've been reading the same book.
Oh, fuck, he's such an asshole. That scene there, I was like, this fucking guy.
Zeke?
I do not... Oh, he's such a prick.
And he pointedly asks about the wine. Any wine left?
Yeah. No, not even that. Just like the line of... like Levi says, how's your book or whatever? He's like, pretty good after reading it 7 times. And Levi's like, oh yeah, it gives you, lots of time to eavesdrop, I guess.
Yeah.
And just like the brashness and the boldness of Zeke, like you can tell,
pompous little shit.
He's pompous and he knows what's coming because like they have a plan and they're gonna make the jump on Levi, obviously.
Yeah.
But like even in that moment, he just can't help himself. He's just such a prick. He's so high and mighty, and it's so funny because what comes next.
Yeah,
but
man.
It was such a strange. The moments between him and Levi, I think it's just like they clearly don't like each other.
So filled with tension, yeah.
It's not even that. Like they're just throwing barbs at each other because they despise one another. It's not a good reflection of themselves either, which is the thing.
Yeah, they're bringing out the worst in one another.
Absolutely, like Zeke. We all have our opinions on Zeke, but Zeke is Zeke at the end of the day. Like he is smart, he is intelligent, and I'm sure there's some good to him. Conniving, and Levi's the same way. Like he's damaged and
tragic, Jesus.
Tragic and grief, but like he's good. He's not, he's worse when he's around Zeke and Eren. Realistically,
yeah, no, I agree.
They bring the worst out of him.
So Zeke springs the trap that we predicted a couple episodes back, and everybody in Levi's squad is turned into a Titan. Pretty cool scene.
Yeah, the light just as they're slowly the sun, like the transformations.
You haven't seen Levi look horrified like that before. He's looked like taken off guard, but I think that was maybe the strongest part of this scene for me, because I was really excited for some Levi Beyblade animation, which we didn't get a ton of.
No, they kind of just threw it away.
Which is weird because there are pieces of this in the trailer that I ended up going back and rewatching it. I don't know. It felt like they kind of cut it. I'm not sure what happened there. But yeah, so there wasn't a ton of that, which, to be honest, is a bit of a letdown. I'll only say that just because, Grant, think about every season, even season 3 with 2 parts. Every single one has had kind of a flagpole Levi action scene that was pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. This was good, but think about him versus the female Titan, or him versus Kenny's men. Yeah. That chase scene, or him versus the Beast Titan. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of really cool shit that he's done.
But you know what? I feel like, I don't know, if I could dissect it a little bit, if they had shown him going full, fully loaded into that on all his comrades, the moment coming when he catches up to Zeke.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have taken away from that a little bit.
No, you're right, but while we're on that, man, the CG on Zeke, that was just some rough shit.
Oh yeah,
the Titan CG, it's just it was hard to be in. I was terrified for Levi in the circumstances.
Yeah,
but watching this plasticky monkey, you know what I mean, was especially if you think about what he used to, just their first round.
Yeah,
Zeke was fucking terrifying.
Absolutely.
And maybe just slightly less so this time. But I still loved it. I just thought,
not even the worst thing about that scene, in my opinion. Do you know what was the worst thing about that?
What was it?
That fucking song. That is
I didn't like that at all.
That is my biggest pet peeve in anime, is not tonally simpatico. The usage of sound that is just clearly not meant for the scene.
And you could tell what they're going for. They were clearly going for get pumped up. This is a big moment.
You can do that. You can do that with orchestral music.
Yeah, oh my god, dude. So I can distinctly recall a few moments where the sound was worked so beautifully in this show. Mm-hmm. One that I've rewatched a number of times. Such a weirdly specific moment. Season 3, part 2, towards the end, when Reiner is discovered hiding in the wall and he stabs one of the scouts. And before you can realize what's happening, Levi blasts out of nowhere and stabs him through the neck. And they pump the soundtrack when that happens. And I was you go from 0 to 100. And they've done really great work with sound. But when it's off, it's off.
Yeah, it was just off. The musically, I think it was just the rapping that I was not a fan of.
They did that in the past too. It's never really worked for me, but
no. In any show too, I'm fine with the combination, because I know that's a kind of, not even so much anime, but I think that's just a staple of Japanese, modern Japanese music. It's a lot of combination of rock and metal, and it's not just Japanese. All kinds of cultures do that, but it could be used well, the orchestral with a sliding in a metal guitar, or a crunch or something. There's ways for it to feel sound. It was 3 different sound profiles all at one time. It was the rap, the English rapping, and then they had some strings in the background, and then the guitar it was so off base for me. It was distracting, honestly.
Yeah. It
was hard to be in the moment. It was just all I could think about was the song.
Yeah, see, for me it was the Titan CG. It's just when they're moving, the motion is just so tough. You know what I mean? His face and just it's just tough. It's just hard to not see. But I don't want to harp on it, because there's some really beautiful moments right before he actually engages Zeke.
Yes.
And
he's chopping off the fingers.
Yeah, chopping off the fingers of his buddies, looking at that Titan and seeing his friend's face in it. That was so good. Some of the dialogue, dude, we've talked about some of the one-liners here
Yeah, Levi's
in this
king.
show. Yeah, dude. I think he had one where he said, are you still in there, you guys? You know what I mean? And God, that was so sad. And it like has this flashback to them asking the captain for wine, them asking Levi for wine.
That was.
And you
Captain!
could just, yeah, hey Joel. You could just tell, like, he was just trying to give him the fucking break. You know what I mean? And you know what it made me think of, which is like just so apt, which is the reveal at the end of season 2, when Connie realizes, Connie and Hanj put together the fact that Connie's village was turned into Titans, and they reveal that to Erwin, and Levi's in the room. And Erwin's happy that he learned something. Connie's traumatized because his mother was one of them.
Yeah.
And Levi's first instinct is like, you mean to tell me I've been running around killing people this whole time? And he wasn't stoked. And this time it was his whole squad. How many squads of people has he been through?
Well, there's a really interesting line. It's the moment. It's the showdown between like Levi and Zeke. Because Zeke's being just a fucking prick too. Like he's riding in the hands of one of the Titans, and he's got two others, and this just goes to show, like, he, again, this is kind of information we have like in the next episode, but like looking back, he's so holier than thou.
Yeah.
Of like, can you hear me in there? He goes, you guys thought you had time. You thought you had, you had a plan. All you needed was time. Da, 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 da. He's like, you didn't have anything.
Yeah.
And he like openly kind of says like Levi was wrong, more or less.
Yeah.
Levi was your mistake. And he's so smug and so like, and then obviously like Levi catches up, but he makes a moment of, are you going to be able to kill your comrades and da da da. And Levi catches up. This is probably my favorite line from the episode.
Oh God, yeah.
He goes, "You think I wouldn't kill my comrades?"
Yeah.
He goes, see, now I'm forgetting the line. Essentially along the lines of like, we've lost.
You don't have a damn clue how many comrades we've killed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was just this moment of like, Levi's like, yeah, I'm going in for this. Like you are.
I loved that part of the sound design is what I loved, because
because it went away. It kicked back into the normal stuff.
Yeah. In that moment. Is Zeke realizes, God damn it, I'm gonna have to engage. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he transforms, and as they, Zeke's doing his. Also, just on that note, Zeke like ripping Titans to pieces to use them as ammo is the most Zeke thing ever. Like. It's so like, that's just, you know what I mean, so him. But I loved the way that for a second you're worried, for a second you're not about Levi, but I love the way when Levi's talking, it makes it sound as though his voice is coming from everywhere around Zeke. Like, Levi's kind of embodying the forest in that moment. It's like the trees are yelling at him, and the line for me was, "What gave you the idea you could escape from me?"
Yeah.
So, that was some goosebumps shit.
Yeah, I'm your jailer.
Yeah.
Also, I found my note there. I was wrong. The 19-minute mark is the next scene. It wasn't this one. It wasn't the Levi Zeke thrown out. 19 minutes. No, it's the one scene after this.
So Levi, we've actually never seen Levi use the thunder spears in this. We've complained a little bit about the animation and the sound for this the scene, so I'll say what I loved about it. We talked about Levi's lines. I loved seeing, even though it was brief, I loved seeing Levi's like ingenuity in cutting down the branches to distract Zeke. Mm-hmm. And then we've never actually seen Levi use thunder spears, and he uses them once, does it perfectly, and drags Zeke's
a lot of them at one time. Like, he doesn't just launch one. I think he has like 3 or 4 of them, right?
And direct hit, first try.
I haven't noticed that before. What was like? Is that supposed to be hardening on the back of Zeke's neck?
That was the first time that they've animated it in that way. In season 3, when Zeke said, "I'll harden," like the only time that he was shown to do that, they showed what it would look like on the inside of the Titan. They didn't really show. So that is like brand new, and maybe that's partially the art style looked a little weird, but I think the intent there was to make sure like. It showed that Zeke was coming to play, right? Because
he was prepared for Levi.
Yeah, he didn't have that on the first time they fought in season 4 because he was intentionally taking an L there, right? He's being cut out quite intentionally, and he didn't have, it looked like he was about to harden in their first meeting in season 3, but couldn't quite make it in time. This time, I like the idea that they show you like Zeke is supposedly at full strength, and he still could not stop
Yeah.
the fucking storm that is Levi.
Holy fuck, man.
And then, you know, he pulls him out of there and, like, fucking... I was worried for a sec. I was like, yo, he might have overdid it. He might be dead. And I also love...
Would have loved it, though.
Yeah, same. I love the line, too. And, like, actually, that's probably my favorite frame in this whole scene. There's two. Actually, there's a few frames I fucking love in this, like you said, in this episode. The animation, right? Like, one is Levi dropping down, being surrounded by Titans that were his comrades. You know, just from all angles, and you're not quite sure, like, is he gonna freeze? And then, of course, he doesn't. There's that, and then there's the end of this fight where he holds Zeke's head up by the hair,
and drags him.
and he goes, "Oh, you stink, you ugly piece of shit," because he's also a bit of a neat freak, right?
Yeah.
Because he's always been complaining that, you know, about Titan blood and how gross it is the whole way, and that's a bit of a callback there. So yeah, that was a good end to the fight. Was it everything you wanted? Round 2? 2.5, 3, depending on how you feel.
No, yeah. I don't know. In my heart, again, you know, you and I have the magic ability of foresight in this instance. I do think this is the last bout between Levi and Zeke.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. You know, that's not to say, like, you know, we know anything drastic that the audience.
No. I just my own personal feelings going forward. Yeah,
I was always worried that, you know, maybe this surprise attack on Levi would really work, and I think clearly Zeke did too. I remember he had this cool line about, like, this is where we say goodbye, Captain. You know what I mean? You're not going to slaughter your comrades, and clearly Zeke miscalculated. But it does, like, really further the tragedy that is Levi's life. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I remember seeing, like, some bullet points on him, and, like, it's like, you know, mother was a prostitute that died when he was a kid, didn't know his father, got to know Kenny, who left him at the first opportunity. You know what I mean? Grew up underground. There's an OVA side story on Levi about how he joins the Scouts. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
No, I haven't. I didn't know that was the thing.
Yeah, maybe we could cover it as a bonus or something in the future.
I honestly had no idea there was any OVAs for Attack on Titan.
2 or 3.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't seen them all, but yeah, there's one about how he lives underground as kind of a thief, and joins the Scouts under perilous conditions at the behest of Erwin. And his life, you know, has not been great. You know what I mean? He had Erwin as a bit of a mentor. He had to cash out on that, but he at least still believed that, you know, Eren was kind of the last hope for humanity. He loses so much along this journey, along the way here. And then this is where he is again. It's like, god damn, like that scene I think in the last episode, maybe 13, where they animated all of his past conflicts.
Yeah.
He hasn't been on the winning side. You know what I mean? He kicks ass, no doubt. But yeah, it's a kind of a sad arc.
Yeah, it's tragic because, you know, it's hard to enjoy your wins when everyone around you is dying.
Yeah,
you know, like you can't celebrate your wins or, you know, it's brutal.
Speaking of tragedy, we go to Shiganshina finally. We don't see Eren, but we assume that he's there because the Jaegerists are there, led by Flock.
Yeah,
and Flock hijacks a new recruit session of the Scouts.
Oh my god!
The Scouts are already kind of, you know, they're all lined up, talking with one of the same trainers that trained Eren and co. And I forget his name, but
is it Shadis?
Yeah. And, you know, there's a there's a little group of the Scouts, these new recruits who are like, why are we even training to fight Titans? Like, the world is different now. You know what I mean? Like, we're fighting people. This seems kind of weird. One of them even says, you know, it seems like Eren and, you know, the Jaegerists are really the only ones who could lead us to victory here. So you could tell that there's, like, growing dissent among not just the Scouts, but just the population. So that doesn't look good. Then Flock shows up and makes it about 1 billion times worse.
Everywhere he goes, it's just absolute anarchy. I despise this character. Like, actually, they're
doing a good job with him and making him pretty, you know, this show is very remarkably not black and white. Every time you think you hate someone, you learn to empathize with them a little bit. Flock is just a fucking prick.
It's hard. It's really hard to empathize with him.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Who knows? Maybe we'll get a flashback or something.
That'd be a waste of resources, in my opinion, on
I think that's not what they're going for. I think they want you to be frustrated, and he's very frustrating.
But the commandant calls him on his shit, and it's probably the most. It was the perfect way to describe him, and like the way he mocked him too. He goes, Flock, I see you figured it out. And Flock kind of played like, oh, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
and he's like,
hot-headed little shit.
Yeah, he's like, no one cares until you have a gun pointed in their face. No one cares what you have to say. And Flock just like, clearly phased, but like trying to hide it. I think that was my gauge on it. Maybe it's me looking into it because I really don't like the character.
I think he was phased.
And and like he shoots, and then he fires at him, and he goes, I missed. And like I think that was genuine. It just goes to show like he's a punk.
He's a fucking punk.
And like fucking, but like the commandant, like and he was a good character back in the earlier seasons. Like he was hard on everyone, but
yeah,
I think I might be misremembering, but there is a scene. Is it with Gene? He talks to someone of like, I don't know if he's been drinking or what it was. I might be completely misremembering this. But he essentially says like, do you guys have any idea like what you're going out into? Like he tells them like there's a reason like this training is so hard. I think it might be during the ODM gear training.
I can't remember. I thought he was introduced in season 3, but I can't remember.
No, he's the guy at the beginning that trains.
Oh wait, no, you're talking about the trainer, not Flock.
Yes, the trainer, not
sorry,
Flock.
yes.
So like it was kind of nice to have him back. It just shows like the
briefly.
Next, briefly, and I don't know if he's coming back after this scene, but yeah. So like Flock just incites,
Yeah,
prove to us.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, he just because they're smart. They're going for the young and the unexperienced and the uneducated. And they're taking advantage that everyone's conflicted about what's going on in their country right now.
Yeah, very cultish, cultish like recruitment tactic, right? It basically says, hey, if you want to join the Aegis, you got to beat this man until he can't stand anymore.
Yeah.
Reminded me a little bit of The Dark Knight when Heath Ledger's Joker says, we're going to have tryouts.
Oh, fuck.
And he tosses just a broken pool cue in between 3 men. Or 2 men and says, but we only have room for 1. It's not that twisted, but he does say basically beat this man to death.
Well, it was like it made me go, these guys aren't fighting an army, these guys are a gang. It was like they were making these guys jump in, right? Because that's like a thing in gangs. You gotta get jumped to. I guess there's a little bit of reversal. It's like murder this guy.
Yeah,
I don't know, I'm getting like really weird, like like proto-nationalist vibes.
Yeah, and also just and just like weird gangster. What's the word? Just prove yourself type tasks. You know what I mean? And you can tell that there's a steep curve here in that.
They're already building a hierarchy.
Yeah. Flock's enjoying it clearly.
There's already like a power dynamic. But that's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be about freedom. And all this and that. I think Flock has just been a twisted character, and this situation has just been to his advantage. Obviously, like, probably was never good enough for like a leadership position and all that. He was kind of a follower.
Big time thriving in chaos, right?
Yeah.
And his his emotions, and he clearly a passionate guy, and that maybe
power vacuum, right?
Yeah, and it maybe makes him perfect for the job, right?
Yeah.
So it beats him to death, and he says, "Okay, now Han, show us where Zeke is." And then we cut to the last scene of the episode. One of my favorite animation stills or just scenes or angles or shots of the episode is seeing I think you're in Zeke's POV, him opening his eyes, and you look at Levi looking down on you with the sunset behind him. That I thought was super cool. I thought that whole scene was lit really beautifully. I thought it was really, really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. This episode was just filled with these moments.
So Levi's booby trapped him. Zeke is impaled with a thunder spear that is rigged to a rope tied around his neck. Levi makes it clear, hey, if you move a little bit too far, too suddenly, it's gonna blow. And Levi proceeds. You could tell he's not stoked, but hurt. Some might say. He says, what are you talking about? Quit your complaining. This is a pretty great way to die. compared to what you did to all of my comrades, right?
Yeah.
Because as far as Levi's intent goes here, is that he clearly is on his way. He says, you're on your way to being eaten, right? That sounds like a pretty good way to go out compared to what people have gone through. And he cuts off Zeke's feet.
Yeah, starts going to town.
Maybe enjoys it a little bit. A little bit.
A little
bit.
The animation they used of like the blood mist, as he's like swiping, that was like brutal. And I was like, Levi and Zeke have had such a long road in such a short amount of time. It was just see the viscera, of like him torturing him and all that. It was, like you don't.
We've seen Levi torture before, but you hope that he isn't just consumed by his rage and his revenge. And,
he's...
it doesn't look great right now.
Yeah, and it's funny, when I was watching this by the end of the episode, I was like, this seems a little short-sighted for Levi.
Yeah.
I think the booby trap, that's necessary, but...
Yeah,
just kind of the way he's going to town on his feet like that. That's just him enjoying it, trying to cause pain on him, and it's I think it sounds weird to say, but I feel like a little fair.
You at least can empathize, or at least hypothetically put yourself in Levi's shoes, where he's not going to take any more risks, and if that means inflicting enough damage so that Zeke can't transform, and that causes him a lot of pain, then that's kind of like two birds with one stone, because he's pretty fucking pissed. The last scene of the episode is Zeke's asking for his glasses back. And I think that's meant to be, indicative of what's to come, because there's a very brief flashback towards the end of the episode of Zeke playing catch with a baseball.
I love Levi's
with a man, with a man, by the way, sorry.
Yeah. I just love Levi's line of, why you're not needing them where you're going. Like, it's the ultimate, like, fuck you. Like,
oh, you can't see well.
Yeah. It was like dad driving and like the kids whining in the backseat. Shut up. Like,
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it made me laugh.
So then last episode scene, there's been lots of like, I remember, man, we haven't really talked about big brain, just our big brain theories. Like, I remember even early in the season, we talked about, there's this weird focus on Aaron with a baseball glove and with a baseball, and we're gonna get to that next episode. But yeah, this episode ends on Zeke playing catch with this stranger who's wearing the glasses. They show you that at the end of this episode. He's wearing the glasses that Zeke ends up wearing, so clearly there's some significance there. And they're playing catch, more weird random baseball shit. So yeah, we go from there, and then in real time we watch the next episode immediately after that.
Yeah, moments after.
So in terms of this episode for now, we didn't really have time to have too many theories.
Well, there's no sense in making theories because we already kind of know what's coming down the pipe. So I think it's kind of the natural place to end it. Yeah,
so I think we can call it here. Thank you guys for listening. We're going to put out season 4 episode 15 and our breakdown shortly after this, so stay tuned. Wherever you're listening, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, follow the podcast. We love interacting with you guys every week, so please keep that up. Next episode is what you call the penultimate episode of season 4, probably part 1 of 2, TBD, but very likely. You'll
hear our takes on it in a few minutes.
Yeah. So stay tuned. But until next time, thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.